Good morning, everybody, and happy Sabbath. Oh, man, we're going to try that again. There's some people who are not even trying to say good morning. Good morning, everybody. Yes, and happy Sabbath. You know, the proverb says that a merry heart is good medicine. Amen. So I don't know about you. When I come into his house after a rough week, boy, I'm just glad to be in it so I can experience the peace, the blessing, and the joy of the Lord. Anybody need the joy of the Lord this morning? Amen. So last week we talked about a little bit about mental health. And a little disclaimer, I am not a mental health provider. I am a family nurse practitioner. So I am trained basically in mental health prescription and medication, but I am not a mental health specialist, just so you know. But I am passionate, but somebody say passionate. Passionate about mental health because I see it so often each and every day. And so I know, like many of you know, that all of us know somebody who's struggling right now. Is that true? Yeah. Whether you're a Christian or not, that's just the reality, right? Last week, several people reached out to me, just saying how much they appreciate the basic conversation that we had. And so this week, I said that we'll talk a little bit more about mental health. And it's a little bit, because there's so much to dive into, but we want to just talk a little bit. I have some pictures. I'm not sure if you guys have them back there, tech team, about mental health, but it's become a very hot topic. And what I want to emphasize is this, that Black mental health matters. Prior to 2020, before COVID hit, you can go to the next slide. Before 2020, we were still, African Americans were still the group who was struggling the most. And now it's even worse. You can move to the next slide, Ricky. Now we're struggling even more. I want to take a look at that picture right there for me. It's the most current statistic about what's happening in our community. And might I say, this is happening among Black Christians as well. We're not the exception anyway. Over 50 million people currently express that their mental health has just gotten worse over the last 2 years, all right? Over 50 million people are struggling, but only half of that, if half of that, are getting any kind of mental health therapy. Now, mind you, we're African Americans, we're 13.9% of the total population, but our percentage, I don't think I have that slide on the screen, our percentage of the total whole of mental illness was approximately 17.9% in 2020. We're only 13%. And to make matters worse, many of us were the ones who experienced the highest number of deaths during COVID. We were the frontline workers, the people who worked the fast food, the restaurant, the jobs that exposed them more to people. So we had more COVID, more job loss, more isolation, more death. So this thing has been compounded in so many ways, right? And so people have lost jobs, lost insurance. What happens when you lose your insurance? Can you just go walk in and see a healthcare provider or therapist free of charge? No. So the people now who are desperately in need of mental health a lot of times aren't getting it. So why are we talking about this? Because this is essential. We know that in the Black community, church, many times church is the one place where a lot of African Americans find reprieve and relief on Saturdays or Sundays. In fact, according to Pew Research, 79% of African Americans or Black people call themselves Christians or religious. All right? So we know that church has become a place for therapy. That's the truth. Some of you may listen to your pastor before you listen to your doctor. I've experienced that. I've seen it with my own eyes. And so we know that the church needs to become a place of healing, right? And support, emotional support as well. All right? And so there's some challenges with us as a church, as Black church, though. And we want to bust about these myths and advocate for mental health this morning, the few seconds that we have. While faith is a critical path to our healing, we also know that church and faith can also be a hindrance to our healing. Because there are a lot of prevalent misconceptions and misleading and unsafe information that we dispose of at church, unfortunately. Spiritual advice like, Mental illness is demon possession. Have you ever heard that before? I sure have. I was sitting in church one Sabbath. I tell you no lie. I was sitting in church one Sabbath in one of our churches, and my husband was preaching, and somebody outside fell out and was foaming at the mouth, and they were having a seizure, but the average eye didn't know that. And what happened was the person said, Pastor, you gotta come now, come, Pastor, come. And he ran outside, and it's like, he's demon possessed. You gotta pray for him now. So I ran up behind him, I'm like, hold on, stop right there. What's happening? I said, what's his medical history? His family said, oh, he has diabetes. I said, check his blood sugar. Check his blood sugar. His blood sugar was 20. That was no demon possession. The man was having a seizure because he was hypoglycemic. But because a lot of times we've propelled these misconceptions, so stuff like demon possession has become a common word among us, vices of the devil, and the solution is often all you need is prayer and faith. But unfortunately, this is still common among us. We still say these things. Prayer and faith are essential to healing. Amen? But it may not be all you need. God may have healthcare providers, mental health therapists, psychologists, and even psychiatrists who can help, right? And so, too often, when people ask the question, well, I'm struggling. I come to church, I'm praying, and I have faith, but I'm still struggling. Too often, they're looked upon as unspiritual, and they're just not spending enough time with God. We have to stop that myth, y'all. We have to be the one to say, you know what? It may be time for you to talk to somebody. How you doing? All right? And ask people and have open conversation. We may need to be vulnerable ourselves. I have no qualms in saying I have had suicidal thoughts and ideations. I have struggled with depression and anxiety. In fact, I am not alone. Statistics is overwhelming. Among age 14 to, I think, 24, the statistics is really staggering for anxiety and depression right now. And you know which group has the highest level of depression among all groups, guys? Black people or black men? You know which group get the least help? Our black men. All right? You know which group has the highest suicidal rate? Men. Our children are also struggling. But oftentimes, when children act out because they're depressed or they're anxious, they're even suicidal, we call them, they're misbehaving, they're disruptive. In the white world, they need therapy. In the black world, they're misbehaving, they're cutting up. They just need a good whooping. No, they may need a good connecting, interacting, and seeing how they're really doing. Listen, my time is up, but here's what I know. We're going to finish this next week after next with Dr. Burkell together talking about some things that we can do. Here's what we know. We know that mental health matters. We know that prayer is a part of it, but it's not the whole thing. We know that there are places where we need the Bible and therapy. Amen? And we know that many of us sitting here, 1 in 4 people have a diagnosed mental health issue. 1 in 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 in 4 of us have a diagnosed mental health issue. But I only said diagnose, y'all. That's only who went and got diagnosed. And that percentage could be much lower since COVID has just staggered on and dragged on, and people are lonely. The other group I want to remind us about is our seniors. I see seniors every day in their home. Their numbers have skyrocketed as well because they're extremely isolated and alone. Here's what this means, y'all. Check on your strong friends. Check on that person who always seems strong and together. Check on that person who may be struggling. Tell you, I am so tired lately. I'm not eating. I'm not sleeping. I just feel depressed. I just feel hopeless. I want to jump off a bridge. If they tell you that, ask them directly, have you thought about hurting yourself? Don't be afraid. People are opening doors for us to have meaningful conversation. Walk in it. People are struggling. People don't want to hear. Just go pray and trust God. People that may need to be said, but it may not be the first thing to be said. All right? So I just pray that all of us know that you matter in here. And listen, part of what we do, how we help relieve suffering and relieve anxiety and depression and stress, especially my family online as well, is for you to put your prayer request in the chat. When you know you're being prayed for, that helps as well. Don't be afraid today to put your request in the chat so we can pray for you. We know prayer changes things, and God will lead you to who you need to see to get the help that you need. So thank you for your time. Remember, your mental health matters. Get the help if you need it. Talk to somebody. And there's a last picture on the screen, Ricky, that I would like you to put on the screen for this. It's a quotation that I want to leave with everybody this morning. Don't be ashamed of your story. Some of us are ashamed because we're struggling, and it makes us even more depressed, more anxious, more isolated. Your story, if you become vulnerable and share, will only inspire others. Okay? Don't be ashamed of where you are, how you feel right now. It will only inspire others. God bless you, and happy, happy, happy Sabbath.